Hello, everyone. Again, like always, if the sound is not sounding good, then do please leave a comment. And if you are joining and you have not been at 5 Minute Critic before, or if you are returning and you have not subscribed yet, do please subscribe for future updates on reviews and movie news. So, the question that keeps coming up, I think, for this week is why is Hollywood always going to be the home for movies? Why? Is that the way that it's always going to be? I mean, why would it have to be the way that it's always going to be? I think the thing I talk about a lot here is why there's constant change going on in Hollywood, especially over the last year. But this week, more so than any other week, there are a lot of big stories happening that I think would make pretty much anyone question, why does it have to be the Hollywood model? Why is it that it would not change? Why is it that after streaming dominating for over a decade now, do things have to stay in Hollywood? Why is it, especially over the last 2 years, the more that things have become even more remote than they ever were before, why does everyone have to be in Hollywood? I was in Hollywood for about 4 or 5 solid months, and it's a weird place. It's a weird place in a lot of good ways, and also in a lot of very, very weird, very almost culty ways. It's a weird place. It's a very weird place. The two stories today that there are a lot of stories, but the two stories that dominate what's going on today are there is a strike that is coming down the pipelines. It seems like something that feels more and more inevitable the closer that this gets. It's been a month really that this issue has been heating up. We'll go through that. And then we're talking about a strike, not like the writer's strike, because the writer's strike was a strike that impacted people, impacted viewers for a while, but it was not a strike that brought Hollywood to a standstill. This is a strike that is more than likely, if it happens, going to bring Hollywood to a literal standstill. And then on top of that, we have the news that Christopher Nolan left Warner Brothers, somewhere that he has had a relationship with for really over 20 years. If you go back to before Memento ever came out, he has been with them for over 20 years. Established one of the most powerful relationships, probably the most powerful relationship Warner Brothers has had with a filmmaker since Stanley Kubrick. And he has now left. And we'll go into the reasons why he left. We'll go into the reasons behind the strike. I think that if you dive into both of them, there is a common theme going on, and that is that there is a stagnation and there is a lack of evolution going on in Hollywood. Just more so than anything, actually, it might be better to say just a lack of direction. There's a huge lack of direction, and it is coming out in different ways in a lot of places. Christopher Nolan is not connected to the strike, but what caused Christopher Nolan to leave, I think, is the same type of a thing that is causing a lot of upsetness throughout the entire industry, and that is a lack of evolution, a lack of direction, and just a little bit of pigheadedness in terms of what is supposed to be happening in an industry in order to make it grow. I don't know what has to happen, but I know that people don't seem wrong about the fact that they're pissed off about how things are happening right now. Before we get into that, we can get into a little bit of good news. Den of Geeks put out an article that I think expresses a lot of the sentiment over the last week. That's that Shang-Chi is saving cinema. Again, that's the title of the article of Den of Geeks, and it's pretty much saying, thank goodness that we've got a Marvel movie that came out, made lots of money, broke a box office record last week at a time whenever we all feel like, wow, movies must be dead because of you know what. And it got people out to go to the theater. Now, I think that's great. I think that's incredible. I think that the article has a right to be happy. I do think, though, that it is an inaccurate way to think about what is going on. Shang-Chi did not save movies. The thing I want to make clear in terms of how I'm thinking about this, and I think the clearest way that you could think about it is Shang-Chi made so much money last year, not because it was a Marvel movie, not because of the casting decisions. Shang-Chi is making people happy about movies because it was exclusive. And that is what Hollywood needs to focus in on. Anything that Hollywood does going forward, and this is going to probably speak to what we're going to talk about with Christopher Nolan leaving Warner Brothers. This is speaking to what we're going to talk about in terms of the massive Hollywood strike that is on its way in Hollywood. Hello, James Pond, No Time to Care. Good to meet you. Good to meet you. Be sure to subscribe if you have not, and put any questions or comments that you have in the chat. Shang-Chi did not save movies. Shang-Chi showed that if a Hollywood studio is going to make their movie exclusive, then people are going to go see it. And what we have been seeing over the last few months is movie studios playing chicken, movie studios not knowing what to do with James Bond, not knowing what to do with Venom, not knowing what to do with Dune, not knowing what to do with The Matrix, not knowing what to do with anything and everything, and continually pushing it back, waiting for somebody, just please make some money, bring the audience back. Shang-Chi, Marvel, Disney showed it's not about that. It's not about playing chicken, and playing chicken is going to get you nowhere. Put your movie out, put it out exclusively. Good on you, Disney, for doing that. And I think everyone really needs to follow suit. So continuing on, let's start. What do we do? Why don't we do the strike? So IATSE, which is a union in Hollywood that, and someone who's actually nearby sent me a list of a lot of people that this union represents. But most definitely, let's just stick to the biggest people. Okay, not the biggest people. It represents cinematographers and it represents editors. Now, if it also represents tons of people, if you got a photo of a behind the scenes of a movie, most people that are going to be in the photo are represented by IATSE. Tons of people, tons of different professions. It is across the industry. This is just a huge, huge studio. This is not like the Writers Guild where we're just talking about writers. And they're talking about going on strike. They're voting to go on strike this Sunday. The reason behind the strike is multiple things. I think the biggest things in it are that unlike most other industries, most like how things behave in America, you have an 8-hour workday. You have an 8-hour workday, and there are tons of jobs that go way over the 8-hour workday. But if it goes over an 8-hour workday, then it makes sense to complain. It's a bad look on the company if it makes everyone in their company go way beyond 8 hours a day to 10, 13 hours a day. Everyone knows that it's a bad thing. In Hollywood, the way that it seems to me to be structured, and again, if anyone watching this, correct me if I'm incorrect on something that I'm saying, but in Hollywood, the way that it seems to work is that if you work beyond the hours that your union has established for you, then all the studio has to do is pay a fee, and then you can pretty much just work as long as the fee is being paid. And the culture seems to put the negativity on the person that does not want to go along with that. So if you are an editor and you don't want to work whatever, there are some people that call this thing Fraturdays that ends up like you go to work early on a Friday and then you leave whenever the sun is coming up on a Saturday. If you are someone who complains about that, wants to leave the industry because of something like that, then the person that isn't willing to put up with it is seen as the person who is the outlier, the person who should be disappointed and should be really cast out of the industry. You're not supposed to complain about it. And so the reward system is on the studio to say, we'll pay you whatever we need to pay you, and you will work your inhumane hours. And I think the last year and a half has pushed people over the edge about that. And there are still so many positions that get paid so little. And the amount of people they talk about, go and look at on Instagram, the IATSE stories. I forget what it is. Go to my Instagram, 5 Minute Critic. I tagged them on there on one of the posts, and it is terrible stories of people talking about things that they go through. The amount of people that seem to fall asleep while driving home. Every now and then you could just say, oh my goodness, well then they shouldn't have done that. You should just call it. It's the structure of Hollywood seems to not work in terms of letting people balance their life with work, and it seems like it's driving people absolutely insane. And the amount that you can't do anything in your personal time, the little amount of money so many people get paid, just seems to, well, it's accumulated in this strike. Okay, and IATSE again, these are people. Okay, thank you, Leanna Castaldo, IA Stories on Instagram. And the way that these strikes work. So how is it going to happen? Is there going to be a strike? What do you have to look for to see if a strike is going to happen? What I have read is saying in 2018, the strike discussed if they were or were not going to have to vote on the strike. So what has to happen is the strike, the union has to say, we will vote for a strike to support a strike. And then after that, there is a process that goes through to make it happen. But the union has to agree. In 2018, people were less pissed off before COVID, and they're more pissed off now. But in 2018, it came to a vote. IATSE said, we hear you, we need change, but they voted no strike. We're not supporting a strike. This Sunday, this is the next time that they're voting for it. And I think this is coming really because of this Instagram page. And go look at it on Instagram again. Those stories are weird. They get weird. And so this Sunday they will vote. And if this union votes to support a strike, then that will be massive. And if they then pursue that, then Hollywood is going to actually come to a standstill until that strike ends. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. James Pond, No Time to Care, says the audience can wait 45 days for the online edition of the film. Theaters should not allow any movies without 90-day theater exclusive. I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think that I understand that whenever HBO Max was doing this push, the sentiment made sense for people to be like, I'm at home. Why do I have to, go to a theater, pay all this money for all these kids and all this stuff? But the more that it becomes an issue that actually impacts the film and movie theater industry, I do think if you are someone that feels that going to a theater is too much of a trip, then I don't think the onus should be on the theater to cater to those people. The studio should not have to cater to those people. We should not destroy the exclusivity of the film industry, of the movie theater experience, to cater to people that don't want to go to the theater. They will watch those movies if they want to watch those movies. They will pay for these streaming services that now exist. But if you take away that exclusivity, it is going, and it has been crippling. It has without a doubt been crippling the movie theater and the theater experience. Because when you go to any movie theater now, I'm telling you, I said this last week, go to a bar. I'm in New York City. Go to a bar, go to a nightclub, go to an art house theater where they're showing movies from decades ago, and it is packed. I was in an art house screening of a movie from the French movie from the 60s. It was filled with elderly people not wearing their masks. There is no way that Delta was a concern of people that were in that theater. The thing is, people are hyped to go and see those movies because that's their niche audience. Movie theaters like AMC, they're not going to live if movie studios don't hype up their own movies, if they don't hype up their own stories. If they put them at home and they put them on in the theater, then people will go with the movie option. Don't give them that option. Or if you do, then you can't complain that the movie theater has been crippled right now. And I think the more that sentiment becomes clear, that goes into why Christopher Nolan left HBO. And look, I get that people on Twitter especially were really, really going in on Christopher Nolan for saying, why should we care about Christopher Nolan? Who gives a shit about Christopher Nolan? Christopher Nolan is a petulant child. And look, start from the beginning of what's going on with Christopher Nolan, okay? Whenever it was 2020, Tenet was going to come out, everybody had an opinion on what was going on. Warner Brothers was along with everyone else saying, we've got to hold back. We can't release this movie. And then there were mutterings about a streaming service. And the more that kind of was going on, the more Christopher Nolan would come out, and you'd see these public battles where Christopher Nolan is saying, no, the movie will be released. The movie will be released whenever it's supposed to be released, the way it's supposed to be released. There is no way we can make a concession on that. And he was saying there's no way we can make a concession to go anywhere near releasing this on streaming. He was sticking firm to it, and he was worried about a lack of respect for movies if you do a simultaneous type of release. It started just about Tenet. As HBO Max became a big thing, I think Christopher Nolan was saying that he had a philosophical problem with streaming a movie at the exact same time that you put it in theaters. But then at the same time, I think the kicker was that Warner Brothers seems to be taking a very pig-headed, whatever the word is for someone that totally cuts themselves off from any type of criticism, and is just isolationist, not listening to anyone and not wanting to hear from anyone that they're working with, not collaborative. Warner Brothers seems like they went a full my way or the highway and we're not collaborative, which is their studio. It's their right to do. But at the same time, I think the real straw that broke the camel's back was whenever Warner Brothers announced that they would be doing day-and-day releases, and they did it without telling any of the creatives. The director of Dune, everyone that worked on Dune, everyone that worked on The Matrix, everyone that worked on what did I say? Wonder Woman. All of those people found out the exact same time the rest of us did. No directors were consulted, no producers were consulted, no editors or cinematographers were consulted. People who spent years and years and just so much time designing movies that, whether they're going to be good or not, look absolutely beautiful, and they were going to need to be seen on the big screen. They were going to end up being shown on 50-inch screens while people are pausing it to go and get popcorn and finish dinner and put the kids to bed. Totally disrespectful. It can be disrespectful, the fact that they're doing streaming. I get that, and that's what Christopher Nolan was saying. But honestly, I think the point that Warner Brothers loses all sympathy from everyone is that they didn't tell anyone. They announced it without telling anyone, which is totally disrespectful. And I don't think it's so much oh, you're so mean, how could you do that? I'm mad, now I'm leaving. I think that if you take the way they were talking about Tenet, the fights that it seemed like were happening because of that, if you take the philosophical problem with streaming back to back, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that terrible labor now. And then you also take the fact that they were not talking to any of the creatives before they announced this decision. All of that has a feeling of disrespect and just a lack of gratitude for everyone that is spending months and months and months of their time in the creative departments making this magic happen. And I think that's the reason why Christopher Nolan is leaving. Yes, he wants a big screen. Yes, he wants great surround sound for the mixing that they're doing. Yes, he wants the theater experience to be what it is. But behind that, I think it's important. That's the experiencing of the art form. But if you want to talk about why is this a big deal? Why could this be pointing to the fact that a movie studio like this might be in trouble? Why does this tie into IATSE? How does this tie into a strike that is coming up? There are a lot of stories coming out right now, and I think the pandemic exacerbated all of the problems. There are a lot of stories coming out right now that are saying, look, these studios are not respecting the people that are actually doing the work. They're not respecting them when it comes to money. They're not respecting it when it comes to time. They're not respecting it whenever it comes to how people are actually willing to experience these movies. And at the end of the day, that's going to hurt the worker. That's going to hurt every creative, and it's going to hurt the movie studio. Maybe right now it doesn't. Maybe right now someone like Warner Brothers, all they care about is getting that subscriber number up whenever they have HBO Max out. And you know what? Good for them. Maybe that'll work. But right now, there are evolutions that are happening, and I don't think any of them are a good idea. And I'm not saying that because, oh, I love to go to see a movie. Look, I love to go and see a movie. Okay, I do love to go and see a movie. But if you look at what's happening over there, there's a lot of really, really bad things happening in Hollywood right now. And I mean bad in terms of people there are unhappy and they are talking about stopping production. And they're talking about stopping production. Creatives are moving to other places. And I honestly think if this was happening, the Christopher Nolan story was happening 5 years down the road, he probably would have gone with Netflix because Netflix is beefing up the amount of exposure it has in movie theaters. And if they push into that, if Netflix and Apple start pushing into having wide theatrical releases, and they offer a business model that allows people to not have to be there, and they offer different structures that are attractive. Hollywood is making it so that if anyone comes through and says they have a more attractive business model that lets you live your life and that lets you get access to the theatrical experience in a guaranteed manner, and they've got streaming services behind that, then there could be there's a big, I don't know if there's a big shift that is going on, but there is a lot of groundwork. There's a lot of groundwork that Hollywood is seeding to whoever wants to come through and create another industry. There are a lot of unhappy people. There are a whole lot of really unhappy people. And look out this Sunday. I don't know if it's going to be broadcast, but go on Instagram and follow what Leanna Castaldo put in the chat there, because this Sunday is going to be very big. And also, I'm pumped for the new Christopher Nolan movie. That thing looks like a lot of fun. It looks like a ton of fun. Also, last little story. Did you guys see James Pond, No Time to Care said, I never heard of Cop Shop until yesterday. They never marketed the film. And that trailer looks terrible. That trailer looks really, really bad. But again, I also didn't hear about it either. And it's the same thing that happened with The Empty Man that was just put out. It was put out in October of 2020 at a time whenever no one was going to the movie theaters. Makes perfect sense that you're not really going to push a bunch of stuff out at that time if no one's going and it's a pandemic. But they didn't talk about The Empty Man at all. They dumped it in theaters without any release, without any press release, without any trailer, without any marketing campaign. And look, no one is going to say that The Empty Man is perfect, but The Empty Man is solid and it's scary and it's very good and you should watch it. And it's a shame. I've listened to a few podcasts with the director, and good on him for not being more pissed off about how they treated him with that movie. He is keeping good spirits, and I think it's probably because people are now finding it on streaming. But shame on Disney for the way that they treated that movie, because they had a great movie on their hands, and it's so weird that they just kind of dumped it like the way that they did. But yeah, I hadn't heard of Cop Shop either, and it's a real shame. It's a shame that they're acting like they don't care. Fun story that went on this week. The West Side Story trailer came out. And if you know anything about what's going on with Ansel Elgort, there were some text messages, just the regular old thing. Text messages came up saying this guy is a piece of shit and we shouldn't like him anymore. And he did something terrible. And it went through the whole, is it true? Is it not true? Who knows? But the problem, Steven Spielberg had already finished filming West Side Story, and Ansel Elgort is the one of the main characters. He is the male love interest in the movie. So it's crap, what are we supposed to do now? The guy, it's like if the Kevin Spacey story came out 3 months before Baby Driver came out, except it's one of the main characters. So have you seen the West Side Story trailer? Because I love the way that they are editing the trailer to make it seem like Ansel Elgort does not even show up in the movie. You see him for a little bit, but it's so funny that he's just treated like someone that doesn't even belong in the movie. Literally, he's not even in the movie. Just don't worry, he's not in the movie. So it'll be interesting to see that movie. I wonder if that not conspiracy. I wonder if that scandal. I wonder if that's going to be a scandal, or if maybe they're going to fly under the radar with this promotion. People go and see the movie. It's like, oh, it's a great movie. And then it's like, just hush, hush, hush. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. But okay, I think that's everything for today. Later today, I'll be filming the review for *Malignant*, which is on HBO Max, and I did watch it on HBO Max. But go see it in the theater. It is so good. It is so good, and I actually do feel bad about watching on HBO Max. Like I do, but whatever. I did. At the moment that was kind of the most. I was leaving. I was taking a flight the next day. Didn't have time to go and see it in the theater, so we saw it in person. James Bond, no time to care. Sorry, I loved *Malignant*. Great, I loved *Malignant* too. The thing I've been thinking about with *Malignant*, the first hour I found dull. Like not bad, but it was dull. The first hour was a little bit dull. But there is something about a movie that whenever it just goes full, like balls to the wall, insane. Just like what the? I think there were like 3 times that I was just there, and I literally just said, "What the fuck is happening here?" And it is just are you kidding me? Is this movie really doing this? And it's like I feel like if a movie is willing to go that wild, it reminded me of Antichrist, actually. If a movie is willing to go that wild, or something like Sorry to Bother You, if you're willing to go that wild in your movie, then I'm on board. And you know what? I forgive you for the hour. I forgive you for the hour. James Pond says the first hour was okay to me. And it was. I mean, it was not, like I said, it was not bad. I feel like it might be more the first hour, it feels dull compared to how quickly things change in the second hour. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I totally forgive it because of how wild it went. I don't care. I would watch it again in the theater and sit through that first hour just to get to the second hour. And you know what? The first hour probably does build the suspense needed to make that second hour just go absolutely insane. I really enjoyed it. I will more than likely watch it again. It was a ton of fun. Any movie that is willing, like I said, to go that wild, I'm on board with, and I'm happy to watch. James Bond, it reminded me of Rogue One Earth Vader scene. Okay, wait, what, the Earth Vader scene? I remember Vader showing up. Okay, no, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, okay. That Rogue One was good too. Rogue One was good. The point that the ship is kind of descending, it is so good, so good. But I'll go more into that review later today. Might be a really short one on the channel. But if you are watching, and thank you very much for watching, do please subscribe to 5 Minute Critic. We are on all social media, and subscribe on YouTube for future updates on reviews and movie news.